What is up, people? How is everybody today? Alrighty, let's jump into the Zion Foster trial. Jaylin Brazier is on trial for unaliving his step cousin that apparently he was quite into. No body case. This is the last witness. We got about 2 hours left of her. And then we'll probably do closing tomorrow, but we'll see. Playing it by ear.
Of how her allegations. So an investigation is always continuing. So anytime something comes up, we get information, we have to follow up on it. So I can't recall. I'd have to look in my notes when I did interview Mr. Gonzalez at his home, which it was recorded. So you have that in evidence to get a better understanding. And then when we found out at the exam about her possibly having a seizure or nodding out or however he described it, it was sometime after the exam. I don't recall when.
You recall. Now, you heard testimony from the Michigan State Police body fluid identification individual.
Remind me of
his name. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hector.
Yes.
I'm very prepared.
And you heard him indicate that at some point in time he came into receipt. Was it your decision as to what goes to the forensics center? To the Michigan State Police for forensics?
Yes, we compile a list and send the list to the lab. Now, whether they take everything all at once, that's determined by them.
And you heard him testify that he would have liked to process all the other items that were in that trunk, correct?
I don't recall him if he said that.
You were sitting here though, correct? In the truck?
I just don't remember that part.
You don't remember that?
No.
Okay. Are you doubting he said that? Okay.
If,
Okay. But nevertheless, you didn't send the other items that were in this particular trunk to him to analyze, correct?
correct.
Okay.
Hey, Vince.
Now, you stated that, I guess, a point
just
person
started.
was a Michigan State Police trooper, because you stated that they're more familiar with this particular process.
Correct.
Are you familiar with the process?
Of submitting evidence to the lab?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And that's part of your duties as an officer in charge is to, after the evidence is collected, to decide which items are then sent for processing, correct?
Again, it's a team effort. We can bring the evidence compiled in a list to the state police. Now, they might decide this is the best evidence we're going to go with first and then continue on after.
Okay, to re-ask my question. You are involved in making the decision as an officer in charge of what goes to the Michigan State Police for processing, yes?
Correct.
And do you,
I need to stop up and take care of something related to this matter.
okay,
Take about a 5-minute break.
that's fine.
Right?
Recording stopped.
Judge has to go use the bathroom, I'm betting.
Listening in to attack
Don't
that
care
phone that
about
was
you.
full, but
Don't care.
setting
All right, guys.
Ask him, hey, leave, are you,
around you there.
The trunk liner, it was either dismantled or cut in half because it was quite large.
okay. And then you said you believe, are you sure, or are you guessing?
I did not recover the liner. At some point, it was on paper laid out, and it was like portion.
And I'm still going to be here. I'm going to be eating off camera in a minute because I just got home from work. So I'm still here, though. I'm still with you guys.
Okay. And you had to give the authorization in order to, for that to be processed, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And did you at least review or observe the lining before you gave authorization to have it sent? Did you familiarize yourself with what it is or where it came from?
Yes, there were sections. There was brown paper with the sections of the liner.
Okay. And you heard the testimony from Hafner, I don't want to mispronounce his name, who indicated that at some point in time, his office came into receipt of a particular device that could magnify its view when searching on particular surfaces?
Correct.
Okay. Were you aware of that?
No.
Okay. Were you aware that such device existed ever?
No.
Okay. It never came across your mind to, like, I asked the question to ask him, hey, do you have a magnifying device where you can maybe get a closer view of whatever particular surface you're trying to look at?
No, I believe that they use the tools that they have.
Okay. Did you ever ask or familiarize yourself on what tools they had?
I did not.
Okay. But knowing which tools they had, that could be helpful in determining on how thorough of an analysis they would be able to provide.
I am not a forensic scientist. I have no idea what type of tools they use, what's beneficial and what's not.
I understand, but if you familiarize yourself with which tools and how they're used, that could help you in further investigations when you're calculating on what particular items that may be sent, correct?
You could say that.
Okay. Because if you know the limitations of their analysis, that could determine on whether or not you send a piece of evidence or not, because they will be able to analyze it and possibly give you a conclusion, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Going forward, we think that might be something you might want to familiarize yourself with as far as their tools
Hey, Christine.
that they
How you
have in
doing?
order to conduct the analysis.
I could.
You said you could?
I could.
Would you?
Going forward,
Going forward, yes.
Objection to relevance.
It's just a,
Okay. Now, you were familiar with the cell phone extractions, correct, and some of the web history, correct?
familiar. I'm familiar with the reports.
The reports, I'm sorry. It would be a fair statement that on one of Mr. Brazier's devices, that there were roughly around 1,154, I guess, porn searches, different porn searches, correct?
On one particular device.
On
Yes.
one- Okay. And would it be fair to say out of that 1,154, there were, as far as you know, there were only 27 that skimmed around, I guess, cousin?
That's what Detective Franti
Okay,
would do.
okay. And there were also other web searches that were done on this particular phone, correct?
As far as the report, yes.
Okay, and you heard there was testimony,
Unless he's just trying to show it was a shoddy investigation. Yeah, it's not really a big point.
that there was a WebMD web search website that was viewed, correct?
I believe you put that up on.
Okay. And you don't know whether or not Mr. Brazier checked WebMD for why a person could suddenly die, correct?
I did not see any particular searches like that.
Okay. But did you even inquire further as to what was visited on those WebMD pages?
That particular page, no.
Were you able to get Ms. Foster's Facebook records if she had?
I don't recall Facebook records. We would just ask the family, what social media is available.
Okay. Did you ever ask, you don't have to give the answer, but did you ever ask her friend Alima if Zion had seizures, if she witnessed Zion having seizures?
When I spoke to Alima, I asked her if she had any suicidal thoughts, if she had any medical history issues, not so much history, but any issues. And the description that I got was, no, she was in a good mood. She was,
Okay. Did you follow up with Vertez about his statement that he made at the preliminary examination that she threatened to kill herself?
say it again.
Did you ever follow up with Vertez about the statement he made at the preliminary examination that Zion had threatened to kill herself?
I believe that was in the interview that was conducted at his home.
Okay, the interview that wasn't recorded?
No, that one was recorded. That's on body camera. I asked about any, there was, again, anytime in investigation, especially at this magnitude, things keep coming up. So you have to follow up and do more investigations. There was tips or anything will come in, and there was something about her taking pills to kill herself. I believe I remember taking pills, the majority of that. So that was recorded on body cam. And he said, no, there wasn't anything. She was taking any pills. She wasn't trying to kill herself.
Okay. And this was before the preliminary examination, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And after he testified at the exam that, in fact, she did threaten to kill herself, did you follow up with an interview with Vertez about that particular subject area?
I don't recall that.
Okay. But you do remember him saying that at the exam, correct?
There's a lot of testimony. I can't remember word for word what every single witness says.
Okay, but not word for word. That particular area of somebody trying to kill themselves, don't you think that would be a pertinent line of questioning or subject area to, I guess, pay attention to?
Well, recovered from phone extraction reports and such, there was language of saying it in jest, like, I didn't kill myself, my nails didn't turn out right.
Detective, I'm asking you a very specific question about what you or may not have witnessed at an exam. You were present at the exam, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And there was testimony that was elicited
Hey, Ronnie.
for testified at the exam that
Yeah.
she threatened to kill herself. So are you stating that you did not hear that?
I'm not saying I didn't hear, I don't remember word for word what he said.
Okay, but you do remember that particular subject area being discussed, correct?
I honestly don't.
Okay. Do you think that in, I guess, a potential homicide case, if there's ever conversation about somebody threatening to kill themselves, do you think that's important, yes or no?
I would say so.
Okay, thank you. Now, exhibit, I believe it was 72 and 7, I think it's 72, if I'm not mistaken. The Ebony Banks video
Yes.
that you stated that you watched. You stated that these were the actors, correct?
I believe that they were actors.
You believe they're actors, okay. So this wasn't any type of illegal snuff film or anything of that later?
I didn't believe so.
Okay. And the second video, you stated that it was a rape style type of video. And I guess the title somewhat was like DP or something like that?
It would have to be on, I don't recall the file name.
Okay. Now, the second video, was there any weapons involved in this?
I don't recall any weapons.
Okay. And you said it was a rape style. Now, how was this a rape style? You stated that it was, I guess, a stepmother of some sort and two stepbrothers, if I'm not mistaken?
In the second video with the white female and two white males, she was attempting to leave the bedroom several times. They were holding, refusing to let her leave. They were holding her down, holding her hands down.
Okay. And
She repeatedly said no.
okay, and it'd be fair to say that at some point in all these videos, it was obviously consensual sex because it was acting, correct? You would agree?
Hey, Aaron.
It appeared to be portraying that.
Okay. Did you do any research on maybe the producer of this
I did
particular
not.
video? Okay. The actual title of the video.
Just what was on there.
Okay.
There was no title or ending credits or anything like that. It was just like,
Okay. Were you able to identify any of the actors or actresses who were
no.
partaking in this? Okay. Now, as far as the comics, you would agree that through your observation of the extraction reports, there are numerous, I guess, visits to porn comics or something of that nature.
I
correct?
did observe some.
Okay, and and it would be a lot. I mean, it's more than
I didn't calculate.
Okay, but it would be more than 10 or 15 or 20.
I didn't calculate. I just referenced these. I saw others, but I don't know a number.
Okay. And some of those were included in the 1,154 different web history that was depicted in the extraction report, correct?
In the report itself
Okay.
contained.
Okay, so you yourself wasn't concerned as far as, I guess, trying to get a total of how many different porn sites or porn topics that could have been visited?
I didn't calculate anything like that.
Okay, and nor did you have Detective Markle or any other individual try to basically section off and do an itemization of the total amount of porn websites that were visited, correct?
No.
Okay.
We need Mark Jensen for that.
So you definitely would agree that 27 is a very small fraction of 1,154, correct?
Yes.
And you would also agree that this, I guess, cousin or websites, these were searched well after Zion's disappearance, correct?
I don't recall the specific dates. I would need to reference the report.
Okay. documents. And Your Honor, may I approach? I'll approach.
Sure.
You want to hold this?
Now, Detective, you would agree that these visits to the sites were in June of 2023, correct? Or roughly around that time period?
So there is June, but then there's also some that don't generate a date.
Okay, would it be fair, the dates that you can, I guess, see?
There's only 6 that generate a report. I'm sorry, a date. That's 6 for this is all up to 2023. It appears that it's all June 4th. There's only 7 that generate a date.
Okay, Your Honor, may I approach?
Sure.
Okay. So just to be clear, the dates that you can see, they were all generated from the same day, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and this was June 4th of 2023, correct?
Correct.
And this would have been after Ms. Foster was disappeared, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and just for the record, that happened January 4th, 5th of 2023?
Yes.
So this would be over a year and close to a year and a half after that fact,
Yes.
correct? Okay.
I think he worked.
Do you know when Mr. Brazier was arrested for this incident?
I believe it was June 13th, 2023.
Okay, so him looking at this porn would have been after him being in the Michigan Department of Corrections, correct? That date would have been after he got out, correct? From your investigation, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes,
So
he was
him-
released in January.
Okay, so him looking at this porn would have been after him being released, correct?
Correct.
And he made his statements, his first statement on January 18th, right?
Of 2020.
2022. The second
Well,
statement.
no, I believe it was 19.
I'm sorry. But he attempted. You did hear testimony that he had a lawyer and he attempted to contact different prosecutors. You heard that, correct?
Yes,
And he attempted to call Detective Ryan Ho from the East Point Police Department, correct?
yes,
And eventually he was able to come in and make a statement, correct?
yes.
Okay, so just to be clear, when he came in, it's your understanding he didn't have a warrant or anything for his arrest, correct?
At that time, no.
Okay. And then he made another statement, voluntary statement, on January 20th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then he made his final statement in June of 2022, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
23. I'm sorry, 22.
22,
Correct.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. But he wasn't arrested until almost a year and a half after his first statement and a year, roughly around a year from his last statement, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you were the officer in charge at a particular time?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is after you had conducted a search warrant on his house, correct?
I did not conduct a search warrant on his house.
I'm sorry. A search warrant had been conducted, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And his phones were seized, correct?
yes.
Okay. And his car was searched, correct?
Are you referring to 2022 or 2023?
2022.
Okay.
In June of 2022. These items have been seized already. Like his car was already seized by June, correct?
I'm confused at what arrest you were speaking of.
I'm speaking of the arrest where he was eventually charged in 2023.
Yes, correct.
But I'm going back until his last statement in June of 2022. At that particular time, in June of 2022, a year before he was eventually arrested.
Correct.
At that point in time, a search had already been conducted on his house, correct? By June of 2022. Because you didn't take
Of his previous address.
of his previous address, the address that you suspected Zion was present at, correct?
Correct.
That had already been conducted by June of 2022, correct?
Yes.
Okay. His automobile had
I don't
already
think
been
we have
seized
yet. I was gonna go
by
look.
June of 2022, correct?
Yes.
His phones had already been seized.
Yes.
Okay. You had a DNA swab on him at that particular time.
Yes.
Okay. Was it your decision to go forward with the arrest in June of 2023?
Was it my decision?
Yes.
Several entities, I shouldn't say entities, my department, as well as the prosecutor, we had numerous meetings about this case.
Okay. And it starts with the police. I mean, for the most part, right? The police request a warrant. They go to the prosecutor and say, hey, we want this particular person charged for this crime and this crime, correct?
Yeah.
That's how the process starts, correct?
Yes.
And you're the individual who requested that warrant, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you requested a warrant over a year after his first interview and about a year after his last interview, correct?
Are you talking about two separate? I'm confused in what you're saying.
Okay, just to be clear, I'm sorry. You're the individual who requested the warrant, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you requested that warrant over a year past his first interview. It had been more than a year by the time you
Yes.
requested that warrant, correct?
Yes.
And approximately a year from his last interview, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just to be clear.
Oh, yeah, we got a verdict.
To your knowledge, Mr. Brazier never tried to leave the state or anything like that, correct?
I believe there was contact with MDOC that he was attempting to pursue a job or something out of state,
Okay.
but that was within.
Okay. If that's the case, he notified MDOC of his desire to do so, correct?
But that's what you asked me, yes.
Okay. So I mean, that wasn't clear. Was there no evidence that he tried to flee the state without notifying anybody, correct?
Flee?
That you know. If
No.
you know, correct?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I don't know if I should spoil it for you all.
Now, you heard from the doctor as far as being able to do an autopsy or on an individual who had a seizure and not being able to determine if that was the cause of death. You heard that, correct?
Yeah, I remember.
Did you know that prior to that testimony?
No.
Okay.
Well, do you want me to tell you guys? Do
Now, in regards to Katrina Smith,
you want to watch the verdict?
you did indicate that there was an arrest warrant that was issued for her in order for her to come and testify, correct?
A detainer, witness detainer.
Okay, which essentially is an arrest warrant, correct?
I can play the.
Okay, so if somebody has, just to be clear, if somebody has a detainer
You want me to
on
spoil
them,
it?
if the police contact them on the street or at their job or wherever, they would be arrested, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then they would then be brought in to the court, eventually, correct? Okay. Now,
Aw,
you were
tell Wendy I
aware
said
that
hi.
she was, I guess, nervous or scared about all the, she, indicated to you that she was scared about all the publicity.
Does
and her
anyone
face
not
being
want
on
to see the
camera.
verdict?
You know about that, right? She indicated that to, under so many words.
I remember her saying that she didn't want to be involved
Okay,
in, pretty much to the fact that she was done with this.
okay, and that she didn't text message you something to the effect that she didn't want her face everywhere. She's tired of, you know.
Yeah, I do recall that.
Okay.
No spoilers. All right.
Were you aware that she was being threatened?
Not that she indicated recently for,
Well, not recently. Any time during this investigation, were you aware
I'll do
that
it
she was
tomorrow.
being threatened by outside forces?
I had heard that, yes.
Okay. And you're also aware that Jaylin's mother was being threatened or received threats from outside individuals, correct?
From her, I don't recall that. From Jaylin's mother, no, I don't recall that.
Did you speak to Jaylin's mother?
An interview was done with her with a detective from homicide. It was done early January of 2022. I don't recall word for word. If it was said in that interview, I just don't recall it.
You don't recall that?
I do remember hearing threats, but from Ms. Milton, I can't say.
Okay. So you never personally interviewed her to ascertain whether or not she was being threatened, correct?
I did not know.
Okay. Is that something, as a detective for the Detroit Police Department, is that something you take seriously?
Yes.
Okay. Were you able to, I guess, research any of these threats that were being made to Katrina Smith?
I did not.
Okay. Did she provide you any telephone numbers or any,
Not that I remember.
not that you remember, but it's possible that you did that you just don't remember?
I don't recall her providing phone numbers that I received
Okay.
for
Or
part of threats.
Instagram accounts or any type of social media accounts attributed to threats?
I don't remember that.
You don't remember?
Have fun, David.
Now, you stated that you were listening to these jail phone calls and you heard, I guess, some type of noise from Ms. Smith, I guess, disciplining the children?
I can't say if that's discipline. The young child, I know that they have young children together, was gasping for air. So I would classify that as.
But they weren't gasping for air as if their air was being cut off now, was it?
It was in between a cry. So
Okay.
there was a loud,
Okay.
what appeared to be a thump or a smack, and crying was heard in a gasp of air in
Okay.
between the cries.
Okay, would it be fair to say that sometimes when you whip a child, even on their butt, they cry? That'd be fair, right?
Sure.
Okay. And you didn't hear anything out the ordinary as far as like the baby being tossed around or thrown against the wall or anything, did you?
I didn't hear that, but I did
Okay,
hear
okay,
her.
okay, thank you. And you have no evidence other than you just heard what you classify as a smack. You don't know if that was a smack on the behind, do you?
I just heard a noise that was a smack
Okay.
or a thud.
You don't know whether or not she smacked her on the back, on the
Correct.
behind, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And all you heard was a cry, correct?
As well as her saying she hurt her foot. So I don't know what type of,
She hurt her foot. So
that's what she
so
stated.
you thought that she kicked the child?
I didn't, I just put what I heard in the call. I observed a call, I recorded in a report what I heard on the call.
So much for attention to detail.
Did you ever have a conversation with Ms. Smith about her children?
No, that was handled by child abuse.
Okay. And to your knowledge, nothing came about that particular investigation, correct?
No, that I know of, no.
Okay. And you stated the reason you did that was out of abundance of concern for the children, right?
I have a duty to,
Okay. You have a duty to investigate certain things?
Yes.
But you didn't investigate the threats on Katrina Smith's life, did you?
no, I did not do that investigation.
Oh. Your duty stops there, though, right? Your duty as a detective stops at investigating threats on somebody's life, correct?
I don't recall her personally saying that to me.
I thought you said you were aware of that.
I was aware of that, but her indicating to me
Okay.
and then another detective talking with her,
Oh, okay.
I can't.
As the OIC, as a detective for the Detroit Police Department, if you're aware of something, whether or not it came from somebody's mouth, isn't it your duty to investigate?
For something like that,
For a death threat. Isn't that your duty to investigate? If you have information that somebody's life is being threatened, isn't it your duty to investigate?
yes.
Okay. And you failed to investigate in this particular incident when you knew there was threats on Ms. Smith's life, correct?
Yes.
And you said you didn't even inquire about Jaylin's mother's about the death threats on her, right? You didn't even ask.
I don't remember that. Like I said, an interview was conducted by another detective.
Okay. But as your job as an OIC is to go through all the interviews, correct?
Correct.
To get a broad understanding of the case and the witnesses, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did you go through that interview?
I did go through that.
Okay, but yet you don't remember what the interview was about, right?
Was in January of 2022 and
Okay, but you had plenty of time before January of 2022 and today's date. You had a lot of time, right?
yes.
Okay. And in that time period, you could have reviewed that interview to familiarize yourself on what was being said, correct?
Yes.
And yet you're in court right now and you don't have no idea what the interview is about, correct? That be fair?
I don't remember that part.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
But then you just redirect.
Yes, sure.
All right, it's 12:58. We'll take a break for lunch. It's getting late. We'll be back at 2 o'clock.
We went over this in pre-trial motions. We're not going to, I just want to publish
Like,
the,
oh, maybe it's,
Exhibit
I didn't realize it was
56
replay.
and
Damn it.
That no video footage. Jaylin Brazier's car.
This is what the
replay.
FBI
Fox 2 really irritates me.
media making comments.
were you able,
Sorry, guys.
Detective, correct?
Yes.
Where did, okay, and
Of 2020.
at the time that this search warrant was executed,
This is the last one.
Was DPD homicide involved in this investigation yet?
No.
And at the time that this search warrant was executed, had the defendant come forward with any statement to the police about, in fact, being with Zion Foster in this particular home?
No.
And
I'm irritated.
in
I
terms
would have
of
finished yesterday.
the
if I
overall
did.
investigation, if you could have recovered anything of value, or anything of value could have been recovered from this particular sort of search warrant, what would have been the most valuable thing you could have hoped to recover?
The most valuable piece of evidence would have been her body.
Okay. And I also want to show you part of what's been admitted as Exhibit 46, and specifically the video from January 6th of 2022. This time frame that's shown here, with the timestamp being 2:56 p.m. on the system time, what is the relevance of this general time surrounding that point in time?
That the defendant's phone also put him at that location at this time.
Okay, and to be clear, this particular vehicle, do you know whose vehicle that is?
No.
Okay, and can you say with any certainty whether the defendant was in that vehicle?
No.
Okay. There were some questions about the requests for certain items to be submitted to the Michigan State Police Laboratory for analysis, correct?
Yes.
Can I ask, how long has this case been pending?
This case, since the defendant's arrest in June of 2023.
Okay, and during the time that this case has been pending, are you aware of, or did you receive any requests by the defense to get any items analyzed at the laboratory? Okay. Questions about Bertez Gonzalez's testimony at the preliminary exam in August.
Yes.
And after that testimony, did you make any efforts to determine whether there might be any other recent records, medical records from Zion Foster in existence other than the Henry Ford records that we've already discussed at length?
There was only one record from Henry Ford.
Okay, and did you check with anyone to determine whether there could be any other recent providers that may have provided care to Zion?
Correct. Yes, Sierra Milton, her mother.
And based on your discussions with Ms. Milton, were you able to identify any other possible recent providers of medical care to Zion?
No, only Henry Ford.
There was some discussion about a follow-up meeting involving Bertez Gonzalez
Yes.
at some point. And who was present at that particular meeting?
Myself, you, Bertez Gonzalez, and his attorney,
And what was the purpose of that particular meeting?
to clear up the statement that he made at the exam about a seizure.
Okay, and as part of, let me ask, in terms of your general experience, have you participated in other, I guess, meetings with prosecutors and witnesses before trial?
Yes.
Are those meetings typically recorded in some way?
No.
Okay. But if you're just interviewing a witness directly as part of an investigation, is that recorded usually?
Yes.
Okay. And in terms of the meeting that took place with Mr. Gonzalez, was there any other information that came to light in that meeting that we haven't already heard in open court?
No.
And in terms of the discussion with Mr. Gonzalez in that meeting, other than his description that he essentially saw, that you heard him testify to in open court about essentially seeing Zion pass out for a second or two, did he have any other relevant information about seizures?
No.
Okay. There are also some questions about Alima. Who is Alima when it comes to this investigation?
Alima was one of Zion's friends.
Okay, and was she interviewed during the investigation?
Yes, she was.
Okay. Do you know how old Alima is?
Approximately the same age as Zion.
Okay. There were some questions about alleged threats to certain people. When it comes to Katrina Smith, did you personally become aware of any sort of, let's say, actionable information about her being threatened?
No.
What sort of information did you have about threats when it came to her?
I just remember hearing that, people had known about what happened from the case and were making comments on, I'm guessing social media, making comments about how they would get to her.
Okay, and were you aware of any specific people?
No.
Were you aware of any specific comments?
No.
Were you aware of any specific threats that were made to her?
No.
Are you aware of whether she ever made a police report about these supposed threats?
Not that I'm aware of.
If such a report had been made, what would be the process for investigating a threat? Would that be something that homicide would do?
No.
Who would handle a report about threats of that nature if it were made in Detroit?
So each precinct has a precinct detective unit. So for crimes that are not quote unquote major crimes, they're handled by the precinct in
Who's
which
winning,
either
son?
it's reported or the incident happened. So a precinct
go with the
detective
swing.
unit would handle that.
So far.
And again, are you aware of any type of report made by Katrina Smith relating to threats?
No.
How about for Angela Milton? Did you ever become aware of any actionable information about Angela Milton being threatened?
No.
Were you ever aware of anything specific about any supposed threats that were directed at her?
No.
What sort of information did you have, if anything, about threats when it came to her?
Like I said, I don't remember the interview exactly, specifically for Angela Milton.
Okay, and her interview, she was one of approximately how many people interviewed in connection with this case?
Countless.
Okay, and was there anything special or material gained from her interview that you know of?
No.
Okay, so she's not would you say like a material witness in this case?
No.
Again, are you aware of Angela Milton making any sort of police report about supposed threats?
No.
There was some question about the timing of when the defendant was ultimately
It's not
charged with murder, and just to
like 3 hours.
remind us, when was the murder charge,
Total.
the charges that he's on trial for, when were those charges filed?
I believe it was June 12th, 2023.
Okay, and his last formal statement that he made up until that point was when?
I believe it was June 10th, 2022.
Okay, and so what was the reason for waiting to have him charged with homicide during that time?
So the landfill search hadn't concluded. During the end of the landfill search, a witness had come forward that wanted to
Yeah,
offer
you're not
information.
wrong.
So again, the investigation continued. So between interviewing the witness, conducting other search warrants, waiting for the returns on that, that's why,
Okay, and so it sounds like there were other leads that were being chased down at that time?
yes,
And at some point, you were part of the effort to get charges authorized, correct?
yes.
And what's your role in that process when it comes to getting charges authorized?
I submit a final, we call it investigator's report, and we submit it to the prosecutor's office, determine if charges are going to be issued or not.
Okay, and then charges were issued, you said in June of 2023, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further.
Now, Detective, you just testified that you were aware that comments were being made to Katrina Smith on social media in the way of threats, correct?
I remember, when I say comments, I'm not sure if, and that's how I see it, as like it would be social media, because the word comment is usually a direct.
Okay, that was your testimony that you remember some comments being made to Katrina Smith, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you never researched these comments or checked about these comments, did you?
No.
Okay. Now, as far as if a police report was generated, you wouldn't know because you never checked, correct?
I have searched Katrina Smith's name, and there was no threats report made.
When did you check her name?
Several times throughout the investigation, as well as I searched his
Okay.
name as well.
Did you check his mother's name through the search?
I don't recall.
Okay, so if there was a police report that was generated by his mother, you wouldn't know if it exists or not, correct?
Yeah, correct. I'm not aware of a threats
Okay.
report.
Now, you stated that there was no actionable, I guess, evidence to support this. The reason why it wasn't actionable because you didn't dig deeper and do additional research to substantiate these threats, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and had you did additional research, you might have found something that was actionable, correct?
Objection calls for speculation.
Had you did deeper investigation, it's possible that you could have had some information that was actionable, correct?
Yes.
Now, you indicated that, I guess, items of, lesser importance are done at the precincts. I'm just paraphrasing. I don't want to take the words out of context, but that was the general idea that you were relaying to us, correct?
Well, if you're referring to major crimes, that was what I stated.
Okay.
Major crimes is a separate entity from the precinct. So major crimes consists of homicide, domestic violence, sex crimes, and child abuse. So it's not my
Okay.
definition.
Okay, but as an officer in charge, if you get some information that a potential witness life is being threatened behind the case, is that significant to you?
Yes, it would be.
Okay. And you're familiar with the charge of witness intimidating, bribing, or tampering with?
Yes.
Okay, and that could be applicable in this case, correct? Correct? Could have been.
Comments made on the internet.
If somebody's being threatened and they're scared to come and testify, that could be witness intimidation, correct?
Sure.
Okay. And if something happened to that individual where they became missing and somebody actually acted upon these threats, that could be information you would want to know on who was previously making these threats, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Any questions from the jury? Please write your question down and pass it to the deputy. Tell us his question.
See what else?
Your Honor, I would motion for a directed verdict
No,
in accordance to see and take evidence and most favorable in the light of the prosecution. However, I don't believe that the rational or reasonable jury would find Mr. Brazier guilty of the crime of homicide. We've heard testimony from numerous individuals, one being from Cortez Gonzalez, who indicated that he was aware that Ms. Foster had a history of seizures. He personally witnessed one of them. He indicated
MLS
that
has
she
a
told
mocha
him
dip.
that she had previous seizures, that she was taking medication for those particular
Excuse me
seizures.
while I whip it
We
out.
then heard information from the doctor who's a medical examiner who did indicate from her experience and her knowledge that she could in fact die of a seizure with little to none showing from individuals as far as if they're observing from the outside. She also indicated that this could happen in a matter of seconds from the time of the individual walking out of the room, back into the room. So saying all of that, without going too much more into it, Your Honor, we just ask for directed verdict because we don't think the prosecutor can their verdict on that.
Your Honor, just briefly, it's the people's position that the circumstantial evidence in this case does support a finding of guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. In particular, we have evidence concerning a relationship between Mr. Brazier and Ms. Foster that, by all appearances, bordered on inappropriateness given the communications that we had between the two of them. We have evidence that on January 4th, he brought her to his house late at night alone behind the back of his girlfriend. And we know that she left his house in the trunk of his car, and that he ultimately put her body in a dumpster and then did everything he could to manipulate, to lie, to obstruct the investigation. And so to now say that he threw her away because of a seizure, which was never even one of the supposed explanations that he gave to the multiple inconsistent statements he gave to the police, it's not supported, but it's an argument I think that he can make to the jury. He's entitled to make it to the jury, and this is a case that needs to be ultimately in the hands of the jury.
All right, certainly we've had, Mike, 32 witnesses have testified so far. The court reviews motions for directed verdict on the light most favorable to the moving party, which in this case obviously is the people.
Hey, Gabby.
Certainly there's been testimony
How you doing?
that Mr. Brazier picked up Ms. Foster from Ms. Foster's home in East Point on January 4th, brought her to his home, that they consumed marijuana, although that changed a couple of times. Evidence indicates that he believes that she first OD'd on marijuana, then on LSD, then no, it was marijuana, that he quote unquote freaked out, and then put her body in the back of his vehicle. And there's certainly evidence on the night in question that he backed up his white Acura, presumably to disguise, not make it obvious that he's putting a body in the trunk, put a body, presumably based on the evidence, into the trunk, traveled to Highland Park, put that body in a dumpster, and then apparently made up a story, if you believe the prosecutor's version of events, that he received a scratch near the base of his throat from his cap. I think the jury could conclude that based upon all of that evidence, that perhaps while there could be some sort of strange medical event that resulted in the death of Ms. Foster, it's also conceivable that the jury could view the evidence that there was some nefarious conduct that he in fact contributed to, if that caused Ms. Foster's death, and then attempted to cover it up. We also have the testimony of Dr. Lee Lavity, who I think disputes the theory made by the defense that this was some sort of seizure
Really?
or undiagnosed medical event that resulted in Ms. Foster's death. And that evidence, I think, could also convince the jury that Mr. Brazier caused Ms. Foster's death. So for those reasons, motion for directed verdict is denied. You intend to call any witnesses, Mr.
No.
Brown? All right, Mr. Brazier, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right. Sir, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. If at some point you can't hear, you don't understand something I say, please interrupt and let me know. And then I'll stop and go again and make sure that you do hear and you do understand, okay? Good. And if I ask you a question, you give me an answer, I'm assuming that you understood the question, and the answer you gave is the answer you intended to give. Fair enough?
Yes.
Okay. You understand you have the right to testify in this case and tell your version of the facts?
Yes.
And you understand if you want to testify, and if you testify, that Mr. Elsey has the right to cross-examine you?
Yes.
You understand you also have the right not to testify in this case. You decide not to testify in this case. I'm going to instruct the jury that they cannot hold that silence against you in reaching a verdict.
Yes.
All right, and if you had a chance to speak to your attorney, Mr. Brown, about your right to testify and your right not to testify.
Yes.
And I don't want to know what you talked about, but did you speak about the risks of versus benefits of testifying versus not testifying?
Yes.
Did he answer all of your questions as it relates to the decision to testify versus not testify?
It's you.
All right, and is it your decision to testify or not testify in this case?
Not testify.
And is that decision based upon an adequate opportunity to speak with your attorney, Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Has anyone threatened you, coerced you in any way, forced you not to testify?
No, sir.
Has anyone promised you anything so you don't testify?
Not at all.
All right, any other questions, Mr. Brown?
No, I think I heard.
And we're ready to proceed with closing arguments?
Yes.
Judge, I don't think that realistically I'm going to be able to finish today with his closing and rebuttal. Just given the less than an hour and a half left at this point. There were a lot of witnesses. My initial argument runs in about an hour and 5 minutes.
All right,
So I guess I'm wondering if we can just come back tomorrow and close. Or perhaps
Well, you imagine him talking
so we
about
don't
cousin
lose
porn?
all the time. If I don't know if the court would consider giving instructions today instead of after closing arguments.
I think instructions are probably better given after closing arguments.
Understood.
So you're at about an hour. How long are you, Mr. Brown?
Nowhere near that, maybe 25 minutes, 25 minutes.
So that would put us at 4 o'clock. And the rebuttal,
10 to 15.
And I might be a little over, I'm just, yeah, it might be a half an hour, just to half an hour possibly.
Michigan, actually. David knows the judge. Goes golfing with him. I know, right? That would be amazing.
so realistically, we might go until 4:30 if we were to.
Yeah,
I
they
hate to waste all the time, but
they go home. Let's see. Closing is like 2.5 hours. So I think I'm going to just do that tomorrow. I don't want to break it up into chunks if possible. Yeah, because I can only go another hour. So I think I'll end early, and then tomorrow we can do closing. I don't know. Probably tomorrow, maybe Sunday, but I think I can get it done tomorrow. But we'll play it by ear. But it should be this time. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, guys. Thank you for hanging out and being here. I am going to go ahead and end now, and I will talk to you guys later.
When I was young, my daddy said, gotta keep one eye open in your bed. 'Cause there's a time coming when the devil gonna come for you. So my trigger fingers stay prepared.
God damn it. Okay, well, I came back to let you know that Hella had a stream, but I think she canceled it. So it was at 6:30, but that's gone. So yeah, I broke the thing. What can I say? So yeah, I'm going to end it now for realsies. All right, guys, thank you. Sorry.
When I was young,